Ben Edwards.
Thank you very much, Matt. Yes, we're getting all set for the start of this second free practice session. John, the weather conditions, it does look as though we might get some rain for this second session, but at the moment the rain's holding off and everybody just enjoying a bit of peace before it gets very, very loud again out there.
Yes, indeed, and of course with that big mountain directly behind the Principality, if there's any weather around, it just grabs it and holds it, and then the rain falls over the racetrack. So the humidity at 79%, that's pretty high. And I can't imagine it needs to get very much higher before it may start raining again, which of course is what the teams do not want. They want to go through a programme of work. They're partway through it already. Some of the teams have been running with fuel, others have been running on lower fuel loads. They want to work out their tyre situation. We heard Patrick Head discussing whether the Michelin tyre, the soft one or the hard one, is the way to go. I think it's the soft one, and I think Patrick will agree as well.
Well, we can see Patrick Head just in discussion down there in the pit lane at the moment before the engines fire up and we get lots of noise rebounding off all the buildings around this Monaco track. And you can see the work that's continuing. Toyota hard at work. We saw Alan McNish just a moment ago. 12th fastest from this morning's free practice, just to remind you in case you didn't catch the first hour. Michael Schumacher was fastest with David Coulthard second and Jarno Trulli in third. Now, it was a good time for BAR Honda. And Matt, I gather we've got the chance to speak to Dave Richards now.
Weekend, that's not a bad way to go about getting your first points of the season.
Well, I'm sorry, I missed the first part of the question.
I just thought, well, basically it was to ask whether you're optimistic after your start to this weekend that you might be getting your first points of the season.
Well, obviously we go to every race with that, but that anticipation. But this place is no easier than any of the last races we've been to this year.
It was incredible to watch Jacques Villeneuve in action in Austria. He seemed like a man reborn. Can you give us a few clues as to why that might have been?
Well, he just really was in the right frame of mind. And he set about it. We went to a two-stop strategy. If it wasn't for the stop-go, he would have been up there in the points.
David, John Watson, in talking about Jack's performance, your drivers have a tendency to respond when it's contract time. Now, you've not really made it quite clear as to who your driver lineup will be for next year. I know it's very early, but go on, David, give us a clue.
Well, I've always said very clearly that it'll be after the British Grand Prix before we face those issues. And quite frankly, at the moment, we've got other problems that we've got to sort out first of all. We're going to get the car quicker, give them the best car possible, and we'll talk about drivers later.
David, is it a policy for the team this morning? I noticed that both drivers have done a lot of laps here today, probably more than just about anybody else. Is that a policy that you're adopting today?
Well, the engineers seem to think they get more out of the performance by just putting laps in, just getting the drivers settled down. Clearly the tyres change dramatically. When you go out first of all, they're very quick, they drop off quite significantly and they come back again later.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, David. We'll let you get back to work on the pit wall and good luck for the weekend.
Thank you.
So we're just a few moments away now. Chance of rain 40%, as you can see, and look at the flags there. Mika, come back please. We've seen a few of those banners throughout the Grand Prix we've had this year. Mika is here this weekend, as we mentioned earlier on in the first free practice. He held a press conference, but no decision as yet from him as to whether he will return to Grand Prix racing. But I'm sure he's enjoying meeting up with all his friends from Grand Prix racing, seeing what's going on, and enjoying the fact that David Coulthard was very competitive this morning, just a fraction behind Michael Schumacher in pace. Rubens Barrichello was fourth fastest, and he looks all set to come out as the session gets underway, the second hour of free practice here at Monaco.
And I think everybody will want to come out on track virtually immediately, as we see both the Jordans. Giancarlo Fisichella, of course, only had 3 laps before he had a little off, and then the marshals pushed the car, which of course excluded him from that session. But with that high percentage chance of rain in this 1 hour session, teams want to find out all information possible on a track which is now ideally, well, in an ideal situation compared to how it was when they went out at the start of their first 1 hour session.
Michael Schumacher waiting to come out for his bit. Both Jordans are out there now. Fisichella, of course, who had to sit out most of the session, having received some outside assistance. That meant he wasn't able to complete the laps. At the moment he's following his teammate Takuma Sato round. I would have thought it might be more useful to go the other way, because Sato's still learning the track, and Fisichella's one of the best around this 2-mile track.
Yeah, I think it's just the way that the cars probably were in the pits, the garages, so Sato's car was first out. As Fisichella just goes out and once again begins to get a feel for this track. 3 laps literally done in pretty mixed conditions when he was on the circuit, and he just wants to get a feel, get that information coming through his body. What is my car doing, and has the work that Takuma Sato done this morning been of any benefit to the team?
Well, he's just taking it fairly steady at the moment. Fisichella looks as though he might be trying to just get a bit of a gap between himself and the Japanese driver ahead, so that he can then put the hammer down for a few laps.
Yeah, and also, of course, Fisichella, his set of tyres, it will only have done 3 laps, and in fact he may have even gone out in a set of wet tyres, we don't know, but certainly very, very fresh tyres. So expect to see a fairly quick time in the initial running from Giancarlo Fisichella. He backed off from teammate Sato to find space. He appears to pretty much clear track up all the way up through the Mazeney, up into Casino Square. So expect something quite good from Giancarlo Fisichella, and this is his first flying lap, his first lap in anger in preparation for this weekend's Grand Prix.
Been involved in some testing between Austria and this race. There he is out of Casino Square, dropping downhill into Mirabeau. Again over the bump, big bump on the entry there. Down into the Grand Hotel hairpin, as it is called now, the Lowe's hairpin as we knew it before, and now dropping again further downhill towards Portier and the right-hander that will lead him into the tunnel where Ayrton Senna so famously crashed back in 1988. Michael Schumacher had an accident the corner just before that, so when he was running in second place some years ago. But Fisichella through there safely and through the chicane safely. We've seen a lot of people straight lining that today.
Yeah, he was a little bit wide going in. He just sort of slightly overran it on braking into the initial turn in, but gathered it back up again and pretty much kept the momentum up. So Giancarlo Fisichella coming through that second intermediate, a 40.7 compares to the best we've seen at 39.1, 1.61 seconds, so total 2.8 seconds away. But in that intermediate, 1.6 slower than the previous best, which of course was for Michael Schumacher. So Giancarlo Fisichella, and he comes out onto pit straight to complete his first serious flying lap, and from 22nd place he goes up to 16.
Yeah, so getting some good data for the team. Gary Anderson watching closely to see what's happening. Juan Pablo Montoya is also on track, just being followed by the Toyota of Salo. Now, as most of the cars now, a lot of cars actually out on track. Peter, you might be able to hear us. I don't know if you can hear us now. You wanted to make a point.
Yes, I was just watching a shot of Mark Webber going around what used to be the Lowe's hairpin, is now the Grand hairpin, a very, very tight left-hander. And he was saying earlier that they actually don't have enough lock on that car to use the exact racing line that he wants. He has to basically miss the apex and just concentrate on the exit. That's why he's always wide on that corner.
Interesting point. In fact, in the past, Peter, I think we've seen teams come here with revised suspension systems that they haven't been able to run because they haven't been able to get enough lock on them.
Yes, I'm sure Patrick wouldn't like talking about it, but there were certainly some years at Williams when they actually didn't have enough lock on the Williams either to get around that corner exactly the way they wanted. It's a very, very tight corner, of course, unique in Formula One. And as we were talking earlier, a lot of the teams, particularly Sauber, running very different suspension geometry here in order to get them up.
Okay, and Massa's gone off down into the chicane and he misses everything. Wow.
He got a real result there. The young Brazilian lost it under brakes, and there we see Alex Young. Well, there at the same corner at the Rascasse, and that is another fairly substantial heavy shunt down at that corner. Problematic corner, carbon fibre all over the place. Villeneuve driving over bits of carbon fibre. In fact, Eddie Irvine wisely stops. He doesn't want to do any damage to one of those sets, or 3 sets of Irvine goes away, and the 3 sets of tyres they're using today, and it is a red flag.
It is red flag, yes. You can see the big red dots at the top of the screen. Alex Young looks as though he's fine, but he's collected that inside barrier. Very similar position to Kimi Räikkönen, who hit the barrier earlier on today. And it looks as though it's the end of the session for Alex Young. Everybody making their way slowly round. There's Barrichello going past as well.
And the marshals very quickly, they've got these trolley jacks, they just physically lift the car up, slide the jack underneath. For Barrichello, it's a shame because he was actually on a potential fastest lap. So let's ride with a Young. Okay, he comes down into, watch, oh, the back end gets away, and then it just grabs the car, pulls it in to to the barrier, and that was a fairly substantial little thump, and again got a second bite of it in that unprotected part of the barrier, but the damage done. And Minardi, fortunately they've got 4 cars here this weekend, but not the kind of outcome they would hope to see, and tough year for Paul Stoddard and the Minardi team.
Great shame. People in that Rascasse restaurant there, which is just to the left of the shop, you saw them standing there a moment ago, getting a great view of the action and now of the clear-up operation that's going on. Once again, the Monaco marshals superb in getting cars out of the way as quickly as possible. They just need to clean it up, but the brooms are out ready to do that. Let's take a look at what happened to Felipe Massa.
Big time. Look at that. He looped it right round. I mean, he came within, again, fractions of an inch or centimetre to that barrier, but back to the Rascasse. I mean, any gentleman sitting in there with his bottle of Bordeaux must have been very upset. It might have just raised the sediment a touch.
It might well have done, yes. The restaurant just on the left-hand side of the picture there. But that's the opportunity you get here at Monaco to enjoy a great meal and watch the Formula 1 cars go past at the same time. Felipe Massa made it safely back in there.
Are flat spotted or not? Okay.
But look, you can see how much the tyre wear. I mean, these tyres have done the first part of the morning session, and looking down, Felipe Massa has done 25 laps. Those tyres are absolutely bold as an egg.
8 tenths quicker into that. 7 tenths, 8 tenths.
Getting a lot of echo on that team radio. But the interesting point there, John, yes.
Yep.
We know that the tyre companies bring their softest compounds pretty much to this track. And as you say, they will react differently as more and more rubber goes down over the weekend.
Yes, I mean, in terms of wear, I mean, that is excessive wear, and 24 laps to see, I mean, a tyre with that level of inside, well, 3/4 of the tyre virtually, the groove had vanished. But of course, as the track gets more and more rubber down, the tendency for wear will deteriorate, will diminish. But nonetheless, for Bridgestone, that's, I think, excessive wear at this stage of proceedings.
Well, he was certainly fortunate to miss the barriers, but they're still just looking at the tyre marks that were left by Alex Young's car into Rascasse, and we're due to see the session start in just over a minute's time now. Still a few bits and pieces to be cleared up down there. And looking down, that's the overhead view over that same angle. You can see it's that very tight double right-hander, and then there's the final right-hander that leads them onto the start-finish straight. Pit lane entrance just on the bottom of the picture there as that leads them in. Temperature still quite low really for this part of the world, 19 degrees Celsius, track temperature only 20 degrees. Humidity still coming up a little bit, but thankfully so far no rain falling, and we've still got a good dry track for the remainder of this free practice session here at Monaco on Thursday morning.
And that's just about as humid as I think I can remember it in Monte Carlo, because I mean, at that level of humidity normally it's raining. And we see once again the corner that first Kimi Raikkonen clobbered the McLaren into the tyre barrier and then into the barrier itself, and then Alex Young in this session in the Minardi. And that building, it is actually a restaurant. It's a very popular viewing spot and much prized by both locals and by guests of the Principality for qualifying and practice, in fact, throughout the weekend.
So the track is open once again. Let's see if they can behave themselves. This is pretty standard stuff. There is Alex Young walking back down
there's
pit lane.
Nigel
Mansell, visitor to Monaco. Great to see him. And of course, he never won this Grand Prix, and he's just making his way over to the Ferrari pits. He's Rubens Barrichello. Gives him a little bit of a greeting. And Nigel came so close to winning this race in one of the most dramatic Monaco Grand Prix. It was the 1992 event, and he led for some 70 laps, picked up a puncture, and then had to come in the pits, made a pit stop, and then hounded Ayrton Senna for the last 7 laps or so, but could not find a way through.
No, in fact, I mean, Senna just did a blocking job for the remaining 8 or 10 laps of the race, and Nigel was all over him like a rash. I mean, in fact, it was one of Nigel's best performances in terms of staging what appeared to be overtaking manoeuvres. No way of getting past at that stage. Senna, no chance of allowing an inch for Nigel to stick the nose of the Williams down. And in fact, when Nigel got out of the car, I think that was the Grand Prix, he looked like he was completely dehydrated. He staggered all over the place, and I was saying it would get him into a bath of iced water. This man needs quick, urgent medical attention. As soon as he got the bottle of champagne, he was dancing around like a spring lamb. I thought, well, there's another Oscar performance from Nigel Mansell. When it comes to getting attention, he grabbed the attention from Ayrton Senna on the podium because of his own actions, and then all of a sudden he was the star of the show. I tell you what, once a showman, always a showman.
And much loved in Italy, of course, and from many of the Ferrari fans after his years at Ferrari. Well, they called him Il Leone. He went down a storm in Italy, and interesting to see him having a good chat with Jean Todt. Olivier Panis on track. We heard from David Richards a little while ago. Both cars running well inside the top 10 here, having completed a good number of laps. 36 laps Olivier Panis has completed, and that's just about half the number of laps of the Grand Prix distance on Sunday.
Oy, certainly he's giving it plenty coming down into the Mirabeau corner. Down into the this was the old gasometer hairpin, station hairpin, gasometer's the other one. And now through Portier. Again, this is the 8th.
Two ago, the steel came very much into contact with the Minardi of Alex Young, and Nick Damon has just caught up with him.
Alex Young, bad luck. What happened there?
Just go a little bit later on the braking, and at Rascas, if you go a little bit late on the braking and get it wrong, that's it.
Bit of a shame, really, because you managed to get the classic car around last week with no problems.
Yeah, well, you know, just trying to push a little bit harder, trying some new stuff in the car, and just made a mistake, really.
Bad luck, thanks, Alex.
So, Malaysian Alex Young, who raced historic Lotus here last weekend in the historic festival meeting, but unfortunately out of this second session of free practice. He's 21st out of 22 cars. He did 24 laps in total before that accident, so he got a lot of running in this morning, but unfortunately he's not going to get much running in this second session.
No, and you can see from his body language, his demeanour, he was not a happy lad at all. Very frustrated because, of course, he knows that time lost in any one of these sessions over the weekend really is substantial loss of potential come Saturday qualifying.
This is a good lap coming up from Felipe Massa. He's currently 15th, but is showing greens on the data channel. That means personal best performances. Across the line he goes, and he moves up to 12th fastest. So that's a good effort from Felipe Massa. And also on a good lap at the moment is Williams driver Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yes, for the first time we're seeing a Williams with a purple in one of the three sectors. That's the middle sector. There's Montoya exiting out onto pit straight. Montoya 18th, and in fact comes across start finish line is fastest.
Fastest overall is Juan Pablo Montoya then, who takes the fast time ahead, about half a second away from what Michael Schumacher did earlier on. The more rubber going down onto the track, and Williams obviously pumping a bit of fuel out for this second session.
And Jenson Button likewise, currently in 11th place. Button now goes fastest of everybody in that second sector, a personal fastest in the first sector, but nothing particularly special. But we got traffic in the third one for Button, lost it all in the third sector.
Mika Salo, I think, just ran a little wide here. Let's take a look at this. Yes, he did indeed.
That's done at San Diego.
Yeah, into the escape road down there, and he managed to rejoin. So no problems for him as we slam our way through the tunnel with Juan Pablo Montoya. Fastest currently. This next lap doesn't look quite as quick. The first sector down by about half a second, but still Montoya getting some very useful running, and it does look as though Williams have taken fuel out, which they don't normally do on the first day, but because qualifying is so crucial here at Monaco, many teams will indeed run the cars much closer to qualifying trim today than they normally would.
Yes, there's a fairly fresh looking set of tyres. In fact, there are a brand new set of tyres on Montoya, but also Giancarlo Fisichella is doing a great job, 6th quickest. As we just look and see Barrichello, the times are changing literally by the lap. Fisichella had been 5th, now 6th.
So good effort from the Italian in the Jordan after not managing to get many laps in this morning. He'll be pleased with that. It's Montoya fastest, and BMW will be fairly happy about that, although in this stage of the free practice session it doesn't mean a great deal. Barrichello 2nd, Michael Schumacher 3rd, Coulthard's been pushed back to 4th but hasn't really set a quick lap yet in this session, and then it's Panis, but Button's just gone fastest.
And Button never actually showed a fastest time in any, or single fastest of all in any sector, but he's put it together, 120.610, and also Michael Schumacher now quickest in that 2nd sector. So we've got Jenson Button heading the list, we've got Michael Schumacher potentially capable of eclipsing that. Here we go, Michael comes across start finish line, 4th quickest right now, Michael Schumacher. Stays 4th,
yes, but Jenson Button's on a further improvement possibly on the next lap, and well, Renault said they were confident for this weekend. It was coming through all the messages, all the official PR. They're looking in good shape, they say, for this race, and you have to say Button's showing that here with a good run in the early part of this second free practice session. Through the first split he's up on time. Let's see, he's got a little bit further to go, and then he'll come across the second split. Will he be up on his own segment time so far? Let's take a look. Yes, well, no, slightly behind it.
Yeah, because he slightly overran into that chicane at the end of the tunnel. Oh, locks it up, no. He's going. He got away with it. Well, Jenson, you don't need to go to the casino to get lucky. You got lucky there. You just gathered it all up. He came within, how close I can't describe, of clavering the barrier. And another potential quickest lap. He lost altogether almost half a second. But Rubens Barrichello, he's the man now. Here is Michael Schumacher. Comes around the swimming pool. He's backed off, but Rubens Barrichello, teammate, is fastest through that first sector. There he is, Barrichello.
Barrichello looks to be carrying a lot of speed. Watch him over the curbs here. The car looks very settled, twitches around a bit under braking. He chucks it into the right-hand part there.
Fastest in the second sector. He's going to go quickest, assuming there's no traffic or no problem in these final 2 corners.
Very tight onto the curve through the left-hander into Rascasse. Now the last corner. This is a quick lap indeed from Rubens Barrichello. Let's see how far he puts it. 120.6 fastest so far, 119.945. So he goes a full 7/10 of a second faster than Jenson Button did a moment ago.
This is Michael Schumacher on replay coming down into the chicane, and for some reason Michael just aborts. He just drives straight across it. We don't know what reason there was, but well, he's in the pits certainly, and technical problem, or just decided that he was going to drive across the chicane.
So Barrichello once again showing that 2002 Ferrari suits him well, and putting in a very quick lap to go fastest. Button 2nd, Montoya 3rd, Michael now 4th ahead of Coulthard. Panis Fredson is 7th, then Ralf Schumacher, 9th is Villeneuve, and 10th is Giancarlo Fisichella. So a very open top 10 currently. Bridgestone's just ahead of Michelin's, with Barrichello in the Ferrari ahead of Button in the Renault. Ralf Schumacher just waiting at the moment, making a few changes to the car. Montoya is also back into the pits currently. Not so many cars on track, and the weather conditions so far so good. It's remained overcast, but no rain falling. And it's Gerhard Berger making his way over to the pit wall. It's a fairly quiet period on the track at the moment. Gerhard Berger there, just having a look, a former Grand Prix driver himself, and well, Jenson Button going through a list of improvements. Jacques Villeneuve's just moved up to 5th fastest, so an excellent performance from a former world champion. And talking of former world champions, we saw Nigel Mansell wandering lane a moment ago. we managed to catch up with him.
Nigel Mansell, nice to see you again. Last time was Spa, become a bit more glamorous this time. You come to Monaco.
Oh, it's fantastic. It brings back so many great memories. Weather's good, isn't it?
Over here, you were saying hello to Jean Top. The big news today is, how did you see Austria? How did you see the finish of the race there? What do you think?
And I'm sure Keke Rosberg will be around. I think it's a no-win situation. Whatever Ferrari did, they're going to be maybe criticised. You know, they did what they thought was right for the team. I think Rubens did such a fantastic job without qualifying Michael. Out racing, it was his race, but everyone's got their own opinion. The main thing was they got a fantastic 1-2. But I'd like to see Rubens win, but you know, Michael's in great shape here.
Talking about your career, 1992, does that still rankle with you? You didn't win here?
It was one of those fantastic races. I think the only thing that ranks with me is I never won at Monaco. Came second, was in the lead probably 3 or 4 times, and through reliability and racing things, never got it done. So, but Monaco's a terrific place, and it's just fantastic being here.
Nigel, thanks a lot. Enjoy the weekend. Thanks, Nigel.
Thank you.
Great to see Nigel Mansell here this weekend and enjoying the atmosphere as everybody does. There is nothing like it. Massa locking up, coming down towards Sander Vogt. That was Mika Salo who was going down there. He wasn't in the way, but it looked like Massa maybe just overreacted slightly.
Well, it's certainly been Massa's really pushing very hard, and well, these little errors creep in. It's so easy to make a misjudgment. Breaking into Sander Vogt, you're breaking. It's like breaking into a funnel, into a Coke bottle neck almost. It's one of the most difficult braking zones, and you're doing 170 miles an hour, maybe even more. And you can look how hard he's pushing.
Here he comes, Massa heading down towards the seafront once again.
He's also, I bet he's just fastest in that first sector for Massa, and I'm sure he's going to find second again in the second sector. He will have improved as well.
Well, we'll keep an eye on his progress. Massa learning this track. We heard from him in the break about how much he's enjoying it, how much he relishes driving between these barriers, and it really does show you what a Formula One driver has to do. This accuracy, the speed. I think Monaco probably shows up the skills better really than virtually any other track on the calendar.
Yes, and Massa got personal best in first and second sectors. He's 1.5 seconds down, but nevertheless it's going to see him leap all the way up from 16th, and that will be Felipe Massa's best lap so far of the session.
So let's see, where does this put him? Across the line he comes, 16th place currently, and that puts him up to 10th place. Good improvement. And in fact his teammate Nick Heidfeld also on track. Here is Nick Heidfeld. He's beginning to put in a quick lap now. Personal best through the first sector, 20.998. That's pretty competitive. Let's watch him now through the second sector of the track.
Again, tending to run very deep into that chicane, running slightly deeper than I think maybe is ideal. Nevertheless, as long as you can maintain the momentum, and momentum something that we're seeing with Heidfeld, but Jacques Villeneuve done a great job in the BAR. He's gone 5th quickest, so maybe there is something in that contract situation that Dave wasn't prepared to expose to us.
Here we go then, Heidfeld coming through, personal best through that second sector as well, and with just under 40 minutes to go of free practice here at Monaco on Thursday. Heidfeld 18th and now moves up to 10th, so the two Saubers virtually together in terms of time, in fact split by just 0.05 of a second.
Pedro de la Rosa in his Jaguar. The team have done a great job to get the repair carried out. Clearly happy enough with the structure of the chassis. There's no damage, only superficial, and very shortly Pedro de la Rosa, who's done only 6 laps, is going to have a chance to out for, well, just under 2/3 of the session.
It'll be good to see the Spaniard back out and getting a bit of development work done. Meanwhile, on track at the moment, Jarno Trulli in the other Renault. We've seen Button go second fastest, remember, held the top spot for a moment or two, then Barrichello went fastest. And now Jarno Trulli pushing pretty hard, fast, a good first sector for him. Not the outright fastest, but certainly his fastest so far.
Then somebody who's going even quicker in that first sector is Alan McNish in the Toyota. He's 1/10 of a second quicker than Trulli is, and they're about, in that first sector, they're about 4/10 away from the best so far we've seen from Barrichello.
Keep an eye on the Toyotas then. Salo currently 14th, but we're watching Jarno Trulli. Just watch the work on the steering wheel through this section. Look how close he is to the barriers. right up.
Oh, I mean, that was close, believe me. That you couldn't, I think he almost wrapped the wheel around the barrier.
Now into Raskas, turns it hard right, get on the power, traction control working overtime around this place, of course, as the power is trying to get down onto the road. Here we go, Truly will improve here, and he moves from
second.
13th to second. So big improvement, and we now have the two Renaults, second and third. McNish goes across the line, 14th fastest for him. Clambering up the hill, they get a bit of view from the giant screen up there, and sometimes they even get a chance to watch what's happening in that during the race. Jenson Button just taking it steady at the moment as he finds some track space before putting in another little charge. We heard him talking about understeer in some areas, but oversteer, as we had witnessed at Raskas when he got very out of shape and somehow kept it off the barrier. Now he'll get a chance to see whether they've improved the car.
Yes, this is on the exit from Casino, and that's something, yeah, you can see a rather tyre, it looks like a rear tyre has actually, the inner side, you can see it is actually shredded. Now whether that's been body parts, the wing end plates get very close in some parts. You see rubber, the strips of rubber slashing up against the rear wing. I think maybe the rear wing end plates have been coming into contact with that rear tyre. Also, the other thing, of course, Ben, is you don't see it so much, but if you try and get a rear view of the Renault, you might look and see where the floor is. So there's something, certainly carbon fibre of some description, I believe, has come into contact with that tyre, and that's what's caused it to just like a razor blade just slice through the upper tread. That's a bit worrying for Renault right now.
It is a bit worrying, but it might have be very interesting and very useful for them to find it out now, because of course that might have been just affecting the handling of the car if there was a bit of rubbing going on just under heavy load that they hadn't spotted. And now of course they will be very keen to have a good look around that area of the car.
Yes, and you'll see the Michelin engineers dive in and get that tyre taken away very quickly, because that is one of the, well, they want to know first of all whether it was a tyre problem or whether it was actually a car problem. We're looking at the car being the principal problem rather than the tyre, as aerodynamic covers are put on the aerodynamic devices. And the ride now with Ralf Schumacher.
Ralf Schumacher, yes, heading down towards the chicane here, also using Michelin tyres, of course. And at the moment, Ralf down in 10th fastest position, but he's on an improving lap here by the looks of things. Never has really got it quite together at Monaco. Has had a number of accidents in the races that have put him out, but this is going very well. He's just put in the fastest second sector time.
Yes, he's pretty much on the pace in that first sector, but fastest in the second sector. So clearly Michelin, again, a fresh set of tyres. This will be the softer compound of the two that Michelin have brought. And Ralf Schumacher could go quickest, certainly top 3 time, no sweat, second quickest.
Second fastest, and look how close he was there at the end, John. 8 thousandths only between him and Barrichello's time.
But he's going to push for another lap. He's got clear track. Looking at Ralf Schumacher, the next car up is his teammate Montoya. Montoya already exiting through Casino Square, going down into the Mirabeau. So Ralf might try and get a second lap, see whether the tyre is good enough for more than one flying lap. We heard that Bridgestone is very good initially, but it drops off. So have Michelin got the same characteristics, or have they found durability?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because certainly the Button and Montoya, when they went through, they seemed to lose about half a second on their second flying lap. Now let's see whether that's still the case with Ralf. Used the curb out of Portier there a little bit, didn't affect him too much.
But he's got a personal best, still not the fastest. Remember, he wasn't quickest in this first sector. It was sectors 2 and 3 where he gained the big advantage. Now wait to see whether he gets personal bests once again, or will it be fastest of all?
Checking through here, Montoya is the next car on the road, but he's quite a long way down. But no, look, the time has gone again through that second sector, so it does look as though the tyre performance is not enough to sustain 2 laps, and in fact he's going to be held up just a little bit by his teammate there.
Yeah, it'll not be quite as sharp as that 119.9 that we saw previous lap. 119 or 120.3 in fact. It dropped off in the middle sectors 2 and 3 where he had been strong there. Yellow wave flag.
This is up at Casino Square. Marshall getting in there to get some debris out of the way. Oof, dear, who'd want that job?
Yeah, I think that might be off Button's car when the tyre was shredding bits and pieces. We saw the first glimpse of Button with the tyre flailing around, and I suspect that's a little bit of the bodywork or something around the rear of the car. The colour looked very similar to some of the turquoise that Renault use on their body panels.
So we've seen a number of moments in recent moments. Ralf Schumacher up to second, as we said. Truly still third. and Button in 4th position.
And Mark Webber, we were just sitting looking at it, and Mark Webber doing a really great job for Paul Stoddard and Minardi, 15th quickest, and a team that really, I suppose, are on the cusp in terms of the cost of Formula One and looking to see where they can go. And I mean, interestingly, quicker than Jaguar, quicker than Saulo, quicker than Sato. Raikkonen's still not been out. Bernoldi has only done, well, he's done 31 laps. So Peter Windsor, I believe, is down in the Renault pits and has maybe got a few thoughts.
Well, just to report really on what happened, yeah, obviously it looked like some sort of thrown thread on Jenson Button's car, and the Michelin boys very quickly into place there, took the tyre off and put it into a sealed plastic bag to take it away for examination. So obviously we'll find out from them later what happened there, but it doesn't look as if he touched anything, and maybe there was something with the tyre.
Irvine's gone off up into the casino. Peter Eddie Irvine and the Mazzone has spun on the entry to the casino. The car left side not heavily damaged, but the end of the day for Irvine, at the same time as Pedro de la Rosa is very shortly due to, well, he's just in fact gone out.
And we just saw Bernoldi's engine expire in a fairly big way. A cloud of steam coming out of the back of the Arrows. So Bernoldi has pulled off to the side of the track. Irvine clambers out of his Jaguar with a very damaged left rear to that and damaged rear wing. There is the view of Bernoldi's car smoking away.
Yes, again, that was in the area coming into Casino Square, and it was a real gusher, smoke pouring out, and there you can see the liquids have been dropped on the circuit. Marshall's quickly put on their, well, they call it speedy dry, whatever it is, just to absorb. Principally, I would think it's oil, but there will no doubt be water. And let's look again. There she goes.
Sensibly, he got right offline as quickly as possible. John didn't try and get anywhere, because around Monaco, disaster. Let's see.
Well, it's Irvine went off on his oil. That's what it was.
Right.
Irvine has gone off on the oil laid down by Bernoldi. As he made his way around, he was on racing line. Irvine was the next car up, and Irvine was completely unaware there may not have been an oil flag out, and all of a sudden he's found himself going backward as quickly as he was going forward. Now there is the oil flag now, but it may not have been out when Irvine came up, or if it did, if he didn't see it, then it's down to Irvine.
Yes, indeed, and well, Eddie Irvine will be very disappointed to have gone out like that. I should imagine there wasn't really much time for the marshals to get the flags out to warn him there, as he was the next one on the scene, and Irvine pitching the Jaguar into the barriers as a result, just outside the casino. Well, Eddie will probably be quite happy with that. He'll probably make his way over to the casino instead. He's looking at the tyre marks there.
Yeah, Ben, that's you're coming up just to the crest of the Mazzone. You're doing 170 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you're on the brakes. The car is very unstable, very airy-fairy, and just throw into the equation a liberal coating of oil on the track surface, and Eddie had no chance whatsoever.
No, they've got the car out of the way already. Once again, they're very quick to get the cars out of the way. It's just the bits and pieces that remain. They are offline out there on the outside, so that shouldn't affect the other cars too badly. And once again, the marshal's doing a brilliant job of getting everything out of the way as quickly as possible. The session continues. We've got about half an hour to go on this free practice session.
Yeah, a lot of that you see on the track isn't in fact car debris. That's just debris from the signage that's on the barriers. It's just been ripped off on impact. There's a couple of bits and pieces of the car that the marshals are now brushing away. And Enrique Bernoldi, the man who, well, I don't know, difficult at that point in the circuit. Where do you pull off? You can't suddenly go from left to right. And I suppose he thought he was doing the right thing, but of course Irvine, first car probably up through. Maybe the marshal's not sharp enough in getting those oil flags out, or maybe Irvine wasn't able to quickly enough catch the flag, and suddenly finds himself pitched backwards into the barrier. And well, Eddie will think, oh, Bernoldi, I'll remember him.
Well, Walkinshaw watches and sees his man just dealing with the car. Frentzen, of course, still 10th fastest in this session. Interesting news. It sounds like Tom's lost his legal battle with Jos Verstappen. There was news that Verstappen won his case and won himself some £2.3 million as a result.
Tom is nothing but a fighter, and I think he may well appeal that judgment.
So that, yes, I can imagine, John, that will still be ongoing. These are all part of the battles that continue. Of course, Eddie Jordan himself. Jensen checking the data here. Looks like they were doing a comparison, an overlay of laps there from both Jarno Trulli and Jenson Button, comparing where each car, each driver perhaps had the slight edge.
And interestingly, the Renault engineers and Jenson Button are using corner numbers rather than corner names. And we were talking about that with Alex Young. Maybe it was simpler just to call a corner by number. And it's sometimes easier to say 1625 than thinking of Raskas, Tabak, Sandevo or Mazanet. So interesting the way that teams work, make it simple, keep it simple, stupid, as they say, and that's what they've done with Jenson.
There's always the chance for confusion if you're using names, and the name of that hairpin that we were talking about has changed several times. Station hairpin and Lowe's hairpin and now Grand Hotel hairpin, so things can get a bit confusing when the names keep changing.
Watch back end of the Ferrari just stepped out coming through the swimming pool. Rubens Barrichello, 1.5 seconds or double that down in his previous best, and Rubens turned in the back end, didn't like that sort of quick turn, and it jumped out and sort of said, Rubens, remember me, I'm behind you.
Well, maybe these tyres have done a little bit more. Of course, we saw him put a very quick lap in earlier on, but these tyres now have done some laps, and so therefore he's not capable of repeating that sort of performance. 2.5 seconds slower. It does look as though the soft compound tyres that both Bridgestone and Michelin have brought here this weekend are going to be good for a lap or so, and then the performance will drop off, and that will be crucial, of course, in the race itself.
Well, Gary Anderson, the technical director at Jordan, but also an engineer in his own right, and keep Gary out of a car. He'll be in there, he'll say, out of the way, let me get in and I'll do it. But no, they're checking something in the front suspension, and in fact Gary himself made the decision that he's satisfied, and he instructed the engineers on that corner to go ahead. Eddie Jordan back up on the pit wall, and it's been a rough session so far for Jordan. Fisichella losing the first part, only 3 laps, he's now 13th. Sato down in 17th, and when you're looking at BAR in 7th and Arrows in 10th, Heidfeld, Massa 11th and 12th, they are right now 4th of the 4 Bridgestone teams.
Well, Michael Schumacher preparing. There's Pedro de la Rosa. He's got that other Jag out and running. Barrichello just coming through the shot as well. We believe that Ralf Schumacher may be coming out on a new set of tyres and fairly light on fuel. He might be doing a sort of semi-qualifying run soon. We'll keep an eye on that. Currently, Ralf Schumacher is quite a long way down the list. And
he's second, actually.
Sorry, no, he's not very far down the list. He's second, yes, of course. He put in that very quick lap earlier on, and we may well see him improve on that if he puts a new set of tyres on. He's done 37 laps in the session, and Pedro de la Rosa 21st, and now he's been able to add to the laps he did earlier on. He's done some 6 laps in this session with the rebuilt car, and we now ride on board with Jarno Trulli.
Yes, and just for Pedro, he's got a pretty clear field as we go with Jarno Trulli coming down into Tabak. This is, I think, probably my favourite corner on the circuit, followed very quickly by the turn into the swimming pool. Very much more simplified these days. You've got curbing rather than the actual edge of the concrete barrier as it used to be. Nevertheless, it's still a massive commitment, and one that is nevertheless easy to make an error in. And if you do get an error in, when Pablo Montoya did it in the race last year, you will end up in the barrier.
Now, Trulli just about to cross the line. Let's see the time. Well, it's nothing special at the moment. Earlier on, you remember, we saw Kimi Räikkönen hit the barrier in the first session. Peter, have you got some news on how they're getting on with his repairs?
Well, Ben, yes, I haven't been down to the paddock area, of course, because once you're in the pit lane here, you're sort of trapped for the session. But I just had a quick word to Neil Oatley, the chief engineer at McLaren. He said the car will not be ready for this session. So Kimi Räikkönen not running. David Coulthard, of course, sitting there at the moment, currently 8th quickest, but relatively confident from the conversation we had with him earlier. And as you can see, they're sitting there, tyre warmers on, something at the back of the car. But at the moment, you've got to say this is quite good news for DC as an individual, because it's been a tough time for him the start of this year with Killington, the principal has, and the situation the car is in. And here's DC basically with the McLaren team to himself for a while, which is a bit of a change.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe he can take advantage of that this weekend on a track that he knows and loves so well. 8th fastest, as you say, currently. Looking at Rubens Barrichello, our fastest runner so far, with just under 25 minutes of running to go here on the Thursday. And watch Felipe Massa attack again.
Oh, he is absolutely ruthless coming through. He just attacks the curb where you turn right. He just drives the car across it. He seems to have no concept or imagination or fear. He just uses his right foot for one thing and one thing only, that's keeping that throttle open as long as he can. And I mean, amazing sense of car control, amazing ability for a man so young. And Felipe Massa, well, still remains 12th quickest and was about 0.3 of a second slower than his previous best.
So the Sauber's not performing quite as well here as we've seen in the past. Look at Montoya, he went down the escape road, that was down into Mirabeau again. We saw him down there earlier on today, and again he gets out of it without any problem at all.
Interesting, Williams have got a very good functioning reverse gear, because twice now we've seen Montoya make an error into Mirabeau, and twice he's found that reverse gear.
McNish here is on a pretty good lap at the moment. It's a personal best through the first sector, coming up to the second sector here, and you can see that's pretty good. He's only half a second down on Rubens Barrichello's fastest time overall, so excellent stuff for the Toyota with all its little extra bits of wing on there, and it's working extremely well. It should get him into the top 10 nicely, this one.
Yeah, very good job. Alan McNish has surprised us, I think, fairly to say, on a number of occasions, and here again we're looking to see maybe 6th, 7th, 4th. Fantastic. Alan McNish, Toyota, well done.
Great effort indeed. Now surely they must have pumped some fuel. Oh, and Massa's hit the barrier.
Well, it was inevitable at some point. He was being, I think, coming out of Tabac. He's been absolutely mercurial. Yes, it is. It's the exit of Tabac.
That's pretty dangerous with the wheel going across, but thankfully nobody hit it, and it's now out of the way of everybody else.
And he's just run wide on the exit. He's got onto the marbles, the soft rubber that rolls off. These very soft compound tyres. Hit the barrier and rattled all the way down to the entry to the pit lane, let's watch again. Watch how quickly he turns the car in, just snaps the car in, but he's wide. He missed the apex, and of course he hit the barrier very early on the exit. That was a fairly severe old rattle for the young Brazilian. And there the front wheel tyre, in spite of those extra strong tyre restraints, when you have an impact like that, the energy is just going to shear those away.
Yes, so the wheel actually coming away from the car, so I'm sure the FIA will have a close look at that afterwards. And once again, the marshals are brought into action as they try and get Massa's car out of the way. Well, we had to say that people learning the track, their first outing, Felipe Massa was always going to be one to watch this morning, and it's proved to be the case. He's been attacking. He's 15th fastest, and it just went wrong there through Tabac corner.
But then it's been in that area of the track in particular. You could see that he was enjoying it, and the way he was just, throwing the car in, particularly more so in here, just at the foot of the screen. That's the big entry to the chicane. Luckily for the marshals, there's an entry point just beyond where they are to take away damaged cars or cars that stop on track. But of course they've got a problem with their jacks. They're not particularly stable, and the car wobbles, and the rear jack, I think, has either taken a bit of a dump or has simply just, whatever it's done, it's not able to be removed the car currently. And of course yellow flags all around that sector of the Monaco circuit.
Well, hopefully they'll manage to sort that out. Look at the cloud over the mountains here, just behind the town itself, and that looks fairly threatening, although it's been like that for a while now and we haven't seen any rain actually falling. Finally they seem to be pushing this car out of the way. They'll get one of the cranes down to it, and they're just going to push it away. Push it behind the barrier.
There's space there behind the barrier, so the crane will not be required.
He looks okay, doesn't he? Might have been a little bit shaken after a fairly, as you say, heavy rattle against the Armco. That's what Monaco's about. When it goes wrong, that's exactly what happens.
Yes, and again, it's just enthusiasm overcame experience. He made an error turning in. Again, look at the tyre. Now look at the shredding of that left front tyre. And we saw a lot of tyre wear on the Sauber when Massa came in after about 26 laps on the set of tyres. That front also very, very highly worn.
So 20 minutes to go in this second session of free practice. Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari fastest so far. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams is second. Trulli is third, ahead of Alan McNish. That's right, Alan McNish, fourth fastest at the moment, from Mika Salo in fifth. So both Toyotas in the top five currently. Button is sixth, Montoya seventh, Michael Schumacher eighth. Then it's Villeneuve ninth. Coulthard has been pushed down to 10th, but he hasn't been out for a little while, just sitting there waiting in the pits. 11th is Panis, 12th Frentzen, 13th is Fisichella, and then it's Heidfeld and Massa. Now Massa just walked back into the pits, as we saw a moment ago, and Nick Damon has caught up with him.
Felipe, very bad luck. What happened there?
I crashed.
You had a couple of pretty lurid moments beforehand, obviously pushing very hard.
Yeah, I tried to learn the track, and I was quite quick in that corner, and my car was oversteer, and I crashed.
Thanks a lot.
Very simple, very straightforward, and very accurate too.
Yeah, I don't want to elaborate about it. You saw it, you've heard it, it crashed, and he was pushing, and we could see that. We saw it all around the lap, and in that part of the track in particular, he was right on it. Well, at least he put his hands up and said it was my fault. Well done.
Well, here's the other one to watch, John. Takuma Sato is always dramatic, a bit like Felipe Massa is. Currently, Takuma is 16th fastest in the Jordan, and now trying to put in a little bit of a quicker pace, although he's not improved so far on this lap.
No, and I think he just wants to get as many miles under his belt as possible, get back to the feel of a Grand Prix car. He didn't do the testing that Giancarlo Fisichella was doing last week. He came here, drove an ancient Lotus 49, a lovely car at this part of the track, stuck it gently, he says, into the barriers. But of course, just regaining the confidence, the feel, and just slowly catch the monkey, I think, for Takuma Sato this afternoon.
Yeah, sliding it quite nicely into Rascasse there. Did a little bit of oversteer on the way in, and he's certainly not hanging about. This won't be any particular improvement for him. I think the tyres are fairly worn that he's on at the moment. He stays down in 16th position, but certainly beginning to show his customary attacking style.
And in fact, he's now done in these 2 1-hour sessions exactly half race distance. He's done 39 laps, 78 of course is race distance here on Sunday, as Michael Schumacher starts to once again go out and do something a little bit more appropriate, more serious, but quarter of a second down on teammate.
Once again, talking about number of laps, it's still the 2 BAR Hondas that have done the most laps, with Jacques Villeneuve having done 50 laps and Olivier Panis 51 laps. If they carry on at this rate, they will have done a Grand Prix distance themselves, I should think. Michael Schumacher, here he is, hasn't done so many laps. He's only done 23 laps, currently down in 8th, but I would expect to see him appear near the top again if he decides to put in a challenge.
Looking at the speeds, Alan McNish 294, and in fact he's just gone back out again and appears to be on a set of new tyres. We assumed that time he may have been on new tyres when he went 4th quickest, but Michael Schumacher getting a personal best in that second sector, but not expecting too much from this particular lap.
Well, we've seen this dramatic performance from Toyota, 4th and 5th, and I gather we can speak to Ove Anderson. Ove, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Thank you very much for joining us. Busy time for you as the cars are prepared. You must be very pleased with how the Toyotas are going this morning.
Of course, we are very happy with what we can see right now.
Michael Schumacher's just split your 2 cars. Alan McNish currently in 4th, Mika Salo in 6th. Have you actually run the cars in full qualifying trim? Have they run light and new tyres today?
Yeah, we are at the moment we are just trying some different tyres and trying the setup for tomorrow.
And is there a big difference between the 2 different compounds of Michelin tyre being used this weekend?
We have to analyze this at the moment. For now, we don't know.
Thank you very much, Ove Anderson, for joining us, and good luck with the rest of the weekand.
Well, cagey as ever, Ove, not giving anything away, but David Coulthard is the man on the march right now, fastest of all in that second sector, 9 thousandths of a second down on an overall time. So David Coulthard certainly going to put himself up at the right end of the grid, and this could be a lap that sees DC go fastest, and these are not new tyres apparently. In fact, a set of used tyres by 0.34 of a second. Unbelievable.
Great stuff from David Coulthard, and this must surely lift the spirits of McLaren Mercedes, who've had such a tough start to the season. But right now, David Coulthard showing his mastery of this Monaco track, and look at McNish.
Fastest of anybody in that first sector. Purple for McNish in sector 1 on a new set of tyres on his Toyota. And as Ove Anderson said, they have to go back and analyse the information on the hard and the soft tyre. Who needs to analyse it? We can see right now that the soft tyre is the quicker tyre. It's a question of will it live for the race?
Well, the McNish is showing that Scotland are ruling here at Monaco at the moment. David Coulthard fastest so far, but can McNish capitalise on that fast first sector? Looks quick, and in fact he's up. This will be fastest overall for Alan McNish if he can just keep it together for the last few corners of the lap. It might only be free practice, but what a great performance nonetheless for the man learning the track here in a team car that's never been at Monaco before. And Alan McNish, let's see, where does it put him? Across the line, he goes fastest. Great stuff from Alan McNish by over 0.2 of a second.
Well, that's an outstanding performance from McNish, from Toyota, both debutants here this year. Okay, it's on low fuel, it's on the softer tyre, of the options are available. Don't worry about it. Mika Salo now, teammate of McNish, comes through the swimming pool. Can Salo goes second quickest, Mika Toyota 1-2 with just 13 minutes of this session remaining.
Well, we'll see as he comes out through the last couple of corners here. He's just got to be a little careful. That was Villeneuve ahead of him, and enough ahead of him not to cause a problem. So Salo comes up to third. So first and third for the two Toyotas. Now, I'm sure we'll see lots of people capable of going quickly, but nonetheless, that's a very, very promising performance from these two. And for McNish in particular, a good confidence boost to be faster than Salo at the same time.
Yes, I mean, Toyota team delighted with the performance. Also, Jordan must be happy. Giancarlo Fisichella slipped in a sixth quickest time while we were watching these two Toyotas. So the battle between Honda and Toyota warming up. Right now, Toyota have got the strength, but Jordan and Fisichella sixth quickest.
What a great sign at the pit board for Alan McNish. P1, Alan. Great job. And he's still continuing on a lap here. Let's hope that he doesn't run out of fuel, because he's going to be pretty light on fuel, I should imagine. Cross the line, 22.213 the next time around. You can see how much drop-off there is in performance there, John. Almost 3 seconds.
I don't think that's just down to the tyres. I suspect there was traffic, but also, Alan, you could see as he came onto pit straight, he had a little bit of oversteer, but that would be accounted for the drop-off. But 3 seconds is not. But Mark Webber, Minardi, P6, whatever Michelin have brought, they have brought a fantastic tyre for one single lap, which is what I suspected Michelin would do. And in these sort of temperate climate that we've got right now, is working an absolute treat.
You're right, John. Mark Webber, there he is, sixth fastest, and you have to say that has to be a lot to do with the Michelin tyre on the Minardi. Great effort from the Australian. He is superb here at Monaco, as witnessed by his dominant victory in Formula 3000 last year. And once again, he's showing his skill, his talent. And watch him working hard on the wheel. You can see the back. That was perfect into there. Really, really good to watch.
He hit the car just dancing on the brake pedal. He just kept it in control, kept the momentum through Tabak, now through the swimming pool. Wait to see 39.3. That's about 6/10 of a second away from the passes that we've seen through there all day. Nevertheless, in the Minardi, you wouldn't expect much more. I mean, that's a great effort from Mark Webber, using that experience from last year in 3000 to best effect. Comes across start-finish line. Can he improve on sixth? I doubt it very much.
Across the line at 21.099, so about a second slower on that second flying lap. It looks like Michelin's is a one-lap wonder, but a great performance from two rookies to Formula One. Alan McNish, fastest in this session so far. Mark Webber in the very unfancied Minardi, sixth fastest. Now, Jenson Button has those same Michelin tyres. I'm not sure that he went out on new tyres, however. So we'll not see. This is fairly slow on times at the moment, so I'd imagine he's on a used set of tyres at this point.
They're fairly fresh. You can see the shine between the grooves, or in the grooves of the tyres, but they may not be brand new. But nonetheless, we're seeing from Michelin now that their soft tyre compound is very, very competitive indeed.
Quick message from the pits. There's not a lot of straight line running here, John, is there, for drivers to absorb information from the radio or from the pit board?
Normally they have to do it on pit straight because of the nature of the circuit, the buildings, the altitude, what do they call it, the height up and down from the harbour up to the casino, and you only really get to talk on pit straight. It's a very difficult period, very short condensed messages going to the driver.
So just about 10 minutes to go in this session, and the team's experimenting with the two different types of tyre, two different compounds of tyre. Ove Anderson, you wouldn't think he's got first and third at the moment, would you?
Well, I don't know whether he's worried or he can't believe his luck, but whatever it is, he's first and third quickest so far, and sort of a study of concentration, Ove Anderson.
The man we were speaking to just a moment ago here on F1 Digital Plus, team boss of the Toyota Formula One effort, as we watch Barrichello.
Again, the back end of his Ferrari just momentarily steps out as he comes through that swimming pool complex.
Again, the time not looking to be a further improvement here. Now he just threads his way through the last few right-handers, back on the power, and Ruben Barrichello, he is fourth fastest currently. This won't improve that at all, although it's a good final sector time for him.
A lot of people in pits. We've got about 6 cars on track as Mark Webber and the Minardi team sit back and enjoy the moment. Sixth quickest, and we've got 9 minutes remaining.
Yeah, really good effort that indeed from Mark Webber, and another morale boosting performance for the entire team. Of course, brilliant start to the season by getting points in Australia to get the whole season underway. That was absolutely perfect. 5th place finish for Webber there, and now they can see what they can do in Monaco. They've been in the points before in the Monaco. Minardi, Christian Fittipaldi was 5th here in 1993, and Michele Alboreto finished 6th a year later. But to score a point, this really requires something very, very strange and unique happening, I should think. Alan McNish also learning the track. He hasn't got the experience of Formula 3000 that Mark Webber has, but nonetheless he's fastest so far. Yes, and I think having had that really a couple of runs right at the front of the field, he's developed that rhythm. You don't run at 1:19.3s and not develop a rhythm, and I think Alan's done a very, very fast learning job. But I think probably it's because it's just worked. It's like a comfortable pair of shoes. When you put them on, it feels right, and some racetracks do that more than others, and I think for Alan McNish, Monte Carlo is a fine pair of shoes. Could well be, and we'll watch him throughout the weekend. Now, what's Ralf Schumacher doing? He's up on the first split on a personal best, not the overall best, but he's on the Michelin tyres, remember, and we reckon he went out on a pretty new set a moment ago, although the second split is slightly slower, so it doesn't look as though this will snatch fastest time away from Alan McNish. Oh, and off Button. Jenson Button is into the tyre barrier. That is on the approach to Mirabeau.
It's down the hill into Mirabeau, and also at the same time Fisichella will be coming into this sector of track. He's gone through. Fisichella's gone through.
So I think he said he just locked up fronts, he said, and Jenson Button now just turning the power off, putting the steering wheel back on, and the marshals will go once again to getting that car out of the way as quickly as possible.
Giancarlo Fisichella is flying. Personal best in first sector, fastest of all in second sector. So can we see a Jordan suddenly hop up to the top of the timing list? Is it conceivable Fisichella, after missing the best part of the first section, can go fastest?
Not quite.
In the last sector he just lost that amount of time, but still nevertheless great job by Jordan, great job by Fisichella.
So Fisichella goes third. It's now McNish, Coulthard, Fisichella and Ralf Schumacher. This is what happened to Jenson Button.
Watch for the lock-up, watch for the lock-up. Well, he got the back end, there was no lock-up. Maybe the back end locked up, not the front. So he had some look and see the rear view. Just the back end. It was very lumpy when you get that far to the left, and he got offline. He was too late turning in, couldn't turn in, and that was the consequence. A mild dunt into the barrier, and of course front suspension. Not much more damage we can see than that, but just frustration, having set up a nice rhythm. And there are the marks you can see on the right of that picture, just the black mark over the yellow lines. I suspect that was the rear wheel of Button's Renault.
So disappointment for Jenson Button. We've only got just over 5 minutes to go in this session. McNish still fastest. Webber's been pushed back down to 7th now, and we wait to see who will come out in the closing moments of this session. Now McNish is coming back out. Whether he's still on the tyres he ran that quick pace on a moment ago, we'll have to wait and see, as Button's car is gradually removed from that area of the track.
And good to see that the humidity is also dropping, so any concerns or thoughts that it might rain some point in the session are diminishing as Jenson walks away, just keeping an eye on his car, making sure that there's no additional damage, and also making sure steering wheel, whatever, as they then begin the process of attaching the hoist to crane the car away.
Heinz Harald Frentzen waits to come out, 13th fastest currently. Remember his teammate Bernoldi not playing any further part in this session after losing an engine. De La Rosa comes pits now.
Yes, Pedro on a brand new set of Michelin rubber, 18th quickest, of course missed the best part of that first session, and Jenson just talks to some of the controls and the marshals and wants to make sure that his car's fine. He's probably also looking, how do we get back to the pits, guys? From where you are, Jenson, it's a long walk. I think you want to find somebody with a motorbike. They'll take you back via Nice, Cannes, and you'll be back in the pits at 5:30.
It's about right, John. Trying to get around the outside of Monaco is very difficult. The easiest way is purely on the track, but he hasn't got that choice.
Suddenly Eddie Jordan's become an engineer. He's pointing down to the front of the Jordan, anxious to get Giancarlo Fisichella out with just a little over 4 minutes remaining. There's Rubens Barrichello once again. Starts this. Oh, look at that great shot.
Yeah. Great view of Button's car being craned out of the way, and the view from the balconies of the buildings around the track, which are worth a penny or two at Grand Prix weekend. Now we're watching Barrichello here, but Montoya is going very quickly over the first sector of the lap currently. So we'll try and plot his progress as well. Barrichello just coming through the tunnel. He's got Ralf Schumacher just ahead of him as they head down towards the chicane.
And Ben, the story of this, or these two sessions really, has been all about tyres, and I think it's got to be all about Michelin, because we're seeing Montoya quick, we're seeing truly quick, as Rubens Barrichello is sort of trying to get another lap out of there. We see, or jumping backwards and forwards. So here comes Montoya.
Yes, Montoya, certainly his first split was good. His second one not quite so rapid, as you can see, and down about 0.8 of a second on that fast time that was set by Alan McNish.
Jarno Trulli has set fastest second sector of anybody all day as Montoya about to complete his lap. It shouldn't see much difference in position. Does 11th Montoya, he goes up to 8, but watch Trulli as he comes across start finish line. He'll be up very shortly, the Renault driver. They got Michael Schumacher coming through, waiting for Trulli. Could this be fastest of everybody? 18.9, he does!
Look at that, 0.4 of a second for Jarno Trulli, and that's good news for Renault. Well, Jenson Button might have had a chance to do something about that, but he went off, and it's left to his team, Jarno Trulli, to set the pace now for Renault and show that that confidence they've come into the weekend with is not misplaced. And again, the Michelin tyre working really well on the Renault chassis.
And Mika Salo also on a very quick lap, 2 personal bests. Salo on Michelin's 6th place in the Toyota. And shortly we'll see what Toyota can respond.
Really being told that these P1, I think, as we just have a quick view of Heidfeld coming through the picture. Heidfeld down in 15th, and that's certainly lower than we've seen the Saubers on 3 practice days. Normally in the last few Grand Prix, the Saubers have been up there in the top 10, but we've seen Massa crash out, and we haven't really seen much from Nick Heidfeld. A little bit of a surprise, although Sauber haven't always got the setup right here in qualifying.
In the meantime, Giancarlo Fisichella, we saw Eddie Jordan around the front of the car wanting to get Fisichella out as quickly as possible. But Fisichella is out on track. Takuma Sato is not going to have any time left, 1 minute, well, just under 1 minute 40 now. So they're working around with like brake master cylinders around the pedals of the car.
Yeah, it looks like it's not going to be getting him back out onto the track in time. He's down in 17th at the moment, John.
I just wonder, has Sato got a brake pedal? Sometimes you get a long brake pedal, particularly on a road circuit. You might get what you call brake knockoff, where there's maybe the brake pads are getting knocked back into the caliper, or it could just simply be overheating on the fluid.
Montoya pushed back in, he's 9th, and back in the pits. That looks like the end of his run here, as we just have a quick glance down. See Jarno Trulli at 28.653. He backed right off on the second lap. We saw him start a quick lap again, but he then backed right off.
Pedro de la Rosa currently giving his personal fastest on a new set of Michelin tyres through that first sector. He's in 18th position. He should, if he maintains his progress, find himself up near the top 10, maybe bottom half of that top 10, as Jarno Trulli now just makes his way back. And clearly, Ben, the first lap and a clear lap on these Michelin tyres is going to be a stormer.
It is, yes, but will that tyre, John, be strong enough for the race? Will it last the distance?
It doesn't matter. If you're in the front row of the grid and you've got teams 1 through 8 or something like that, you can just run at your own pace. You don't have to race the opposition.
That's true. Well, there is Montoya. And Williams, of course, have access to those Michelin tyres. And they look as though they're still trying to work out what the best thing to do is. We're almost in time for the checkered flag to come out. Quick note that Panis has completed 61 laps in the 2 free practice sessions this morning, so he's really been putting in the laps. But Alan McNish, second fastest here. It looks as though that's the way it's going to end, because no one's on a particularly quick lap. The checkered flag has come out. Alan himself will receive it as he comes past the start line this time. The red lights are on to indicate the end of the session, and Alan McNish has ended the first day here, his first ever run around the Monaco Grand Prix circuit, second fastest.
A fine effort indeed as Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Well, Frentzen just cruising back in, and it's been a bit of a disappointing session, I think. The team that certainly expected more, but I have to say right now the situation is being dominated more by the Michelin tyre than by the individual performance of given cars and chassis.
So take the checkered flag, come round onto the grid, and we'll practice a launch.
So Heinz-Harald Frentzen being told to complete a lap and then come back round and practice a launch. And so that's pretty crucial here, that the launch control systems are working well. In fact, ironically, there was a lot of concern about it last year. In fact, it was only the pole man, only I say, David Coulthard, who had a problem with his system. that stalled the engine. There's the view with Michael Schumacher. He's backed off now and just taking it easy. Now Michael has ended up 11th today, so not really featuring amongst the front runners for a change. His teammate Rubens Barrichello 7th. Certainly looks as though the Bridgestone-tired Ferrari doesn't have the dominant edge that it's had at some of the other tracks this year, but it's still early days.
Yes, I suspect the Ferrari have really stuck to their work schedule. They've gone through a whole... Oh, nice one, Michael. Switch off the traction control there, a bit of rubber. And he's going to do a launch control start.
Yes, they're allowed to come around onto the grid here at Monaco too.
What he's doing, Ben, is trying to clear off any pickup. That running slowly in that last lap he did would have built up, so now he engages launch control and has a little look around and walks the Ferrari, and it'll not be wheel spin, this will be traction all the way.
Great to watch, isn't it? That's all it does. He takes his finger off the button, he's got his foot hard on the accelerator, the system takes over. Great to have that view.
Well, it's a bit hard mechanically on the cars, but certainly it doesn't have to get off the line. Now watch with Renault, they've so far, I think since the middle of last year and through this year, had an advantage in terms of launch control. And I mean, it's difficult to judge because there's no other cars around, but certainly that car just moves off without any sense of wheel spin whatsoever.
No rubber laid at all. No, you'd think that you might want just a touch of wheel spin. I don't know. Eddie was waiting to see whether it was going to rain. Thankfully it didn't throughout that session. Mark Webber. Again, barely, just a little bit of wheel spin.
Yeah, you can see the bit of rubber laid there. Certainly the Renault system appears to be the best, because there is no indication of any rubber whatsoever. In line with Nick Heidfeld.
It's a great show, this, isn't it? It's because the place where they have to do the launch control practice allocated to them is the grid, and gives us a good opportunity to watch it. But they don't want to get too queued up, otherwise the engines will be overheating. It's quite stressful.
It's very tough on every part of the car. The heat build up, of course, having run hard a number of laps in practice. A little bit of rubber, you just see a little bite of rubber initially, so we go down to Fisichella. And let's see how Jordan's system works. It doesn't look pretty, that's pretty good.
Yeah, good opportunity for the other teams here, John, to watch each other's cars. I mean, they often do it anyway at the Exeter pits at the other tracks, but here they're in front of everybody in the pit lane.
Well, I think because of the nature of the circuit, we've seen a bit of a queue of cars building up, and they've all been given a front row starting position rather than just doing it, you know, grid by grid by grid. And I thought I saw a few spots of rain on a lens. It may have been other liquids, it may have been oil or something, but rain not very far away, although the humidity has reduced marginally. Nonetheless, wouldn't be a surprise if there was a little bit of rain falling later this afternoon. Friday, of course, free day for the Grand Prix teams in terms of practicing, but other events will take place. It's always a very busy weekend.
Indeed, yes, you're right, John.
The rain is falling.
Yeah, the rain is falling right at the end of the session. Well, it's timed that well, hasn't it? Alan McNish ended up second fastest, but Jarno Trulli for Renault, the Italian, driving in his 87th Grand Prix here this weekend, has ended up with the fastest time on the Thursday. And look at all the Michelin runners who've ended up near the front of the order. Great stuff from Trulli. Superb effort from Alan McNish, learning the track, getting into the rhythm and ending up with the second fastest time. Good day for Scotland all round, really, because David Coulthard was on the pace every time he went out there, third fastest overall. Fastest of the Bridgestone units, bit of a surprise, is Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan, ahead of Salo and then Ralf Schumacher. Then Rubens Barrichello, second fastest of the Bridgestone runners in the Ferrari. Mark Webber in that Minardi doing a great job to end up right inside the top 10. Michael Schumacher down in 11th place. Panis with the most laps completed, and a whole line of Bridgestone users and people who we normally expect to see further up, particularly Frentzen, Massa and Heidfeld. Those guys have all been doing well in free practices in the last few Grand Prix, but not so much here today.
No, it's a story about tyres. We've seen that in Austria, where Bridgestone dominated on Friday and pretty much dominated through the weekend. Here Michelin have done a great job. They've got a tyre that certainly on the first flying lap is massive. What will happen, of course, over the period of 78 laps, I do not know. But once you've got the grid locked out, it doesn't actually matter. You then can control the pace.
Well, a little bit of rain falling now, but it stayed dry for the free practice. Let's look back over the highlights.